starting up wasn't an idea that the two of you talked about when you were in college together. I mean, it wasn't something that you considered doing, I would imagine, at IIT.
For me, the aha moment was just us deciding that we were going to do something together. And what exactly that is, that actually came second. If I had not started up with Srinath, I probably would not have started up.
So if he hadn't made the call, would you have thought about it?
I was pretty comfortable back in 2017-18. I was not giving this serious a thought. When he proposed, I couldn't say no.
We're now at Trump 2.0.
Yeah.
Tariffs are playing havoc at this point in time. How do you read the latest set of developments in the US?
These kind of opportunities like tariffs, etc., they really allow you to shortcut your sales cycle. So what you would have otherwise achieved in 1 to 2 years, you're able to achieve it in 1 to 2 quarters. I would say in 3 to 4 years from now, these things should be good for India and by extension us.
In 6 years, to go from starting from scratch to being able to take this business global, I mean, it's a turbocharged journey.
The first US thought came to us back in 2019 when Trump 1.0 and there was 25% tariffs on China. Okay, now with this 25% tariff, can India compete with China? Because we have this 25% delta.
Hello and welcome to the Young Turks Reloaded podcast. I'm Shereen Bhan. While everyone's talking about the possibility of India having its manufacturing moment, a 6-year-old company is quite literally having its moment in manufacturing. We're talking about Bangalore-based ZETWERK, a company started in 2018 by founders who decided that they wanted to give up their cushy corporate jobs to actually get into the manufacturing space in India. To talk to us about the ZETWERK story, how it began, and more importantly, where it's headed. Joining me now are Amrit and Srinath. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on the program. So I want to start with that. It's been just 6 years. It seems like much longer, but it's actually been just 6 years that you started this company. And you've been able to do what? More than $2 billion in revenue already. So the manufacturing moment for you has been real.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you say it out loud, yes, it's been 6 years. Sometimes it feels 10 years, sometimes it feels 1 year. You know, I go through those extreme moments. Where
What are you feeling right now?
Right now, I feel 10 years.
10 years.
I think it's just, yeah, you're right. Like, and I would say out of the 6 years, 2 years were COVID. So in reality, a lot of our growth has happened in the last 3.5, 4 years. So it's been pretty frenetic. And I think what excites us is we actually really like what we do. It's like when we were first starting out, I think me and Srinath, when we were first pitching in the investors, the common feedback we got was, you guys sound really smart, but why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, why are you going into manufacturing?
Why are you going into manufacturing?
Yeah.
And amongst all the rounds we have raised, I still feel our seed round was the toughest.
But that happened fairly quickly, right? I mean, you managed to close that in record time, I would imagine.
No, our seed round took us 3.5, 4, no, almost 5 months.
Okay, 5 months is not that long.
Yeah. I mean, compared to, other things, I think we've taken a little bit shorter. But it was more around the uncertainty. Like we got a lot more no's around that time. And the no's were less about people not liking us or the idea, but they were just not comfortable around that. There was no comparison. There's not an Uber for India or an Airbnb for India. What's the US equivalent? What's the China equivalent? And we honestly, when you start a company, you don't always think, okay, I'm starting the Uber for India.
Yeah.
You just, in our case, we had empathy for the problem basis our first jobs. I started my career at ITC, Srinath as well. We've seen shop floors up front, and we had empathy and attractiveness from that unique vantage point. But suddenly we were being asked all these questions of what is this the US equivalent of something else?
Yeah. So you're not the Uber of India, you're not the coup of India or any of the other sort of templatized models that we speak of. But Srinath, starting up wasn't an idea that the two of you talked about when you were in college together. I mean, it wasn't something that you considered doing, I would imagine, at IIT, or was it? Or did you ever kind of have that conversation back then?
No, we did have conversation about starting up even in college. In fact, back, I don't know if you remember G Edison Challenge and things like that. So there was this big competition
In
and-
IIT Madras.
In IIT Madras, and back then it was a very coveted thing to win. And for a while, we were even contemplating if we should actually work on that problem statement. It was something around energy, and work on that problem statement and convert that actually into a business. But we were, I think, also very clear that after college, it's important that we start a career in a company. It's important that we work in a big company setting, and I think that experience is equally shaped how we work, act, take decisions, and a big part of it is people leadership. Today you run a big organization, right? And we look up to leaders whom we had actually looked up in our ITC days, and I think it's important that that we never thought of it in those days in college so deeply about it.
Yeah.
But today when
But there
I
was
reflect,
a germ somewhere.
yeah, the germ was always there. The germ was always there, and glad that it worked out after 8 or 9 years after graduating from college.
After graduating from college. But what was the trigger? I mean, what eventually made you say, I don't want the McKinsey job. I want to go back home to India and get this started. And between you having that realization and convincing him, I mean, how long did it take?
I think, in my case, I was in the US and we had a lot of common friends from our time at ITC, and they were starting companies. One of them just went public a few months ago, a company called Blackbuck. Again, the founder was basically grew up with us.
Yeah.
And at least for me, I was seeing all of this from outside and
Getting FOMO.
And FOMO. I should not have left India. There was just a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and in US, I basically had to build my life from scratch. When I went there, I had some network from my friends, etc. But I just felt that should I spend my 20s and early 30s chasing, getting a green card, getting a visa,
the American dream,
and rebuilding my life, or should I use what I felt were the most productive years of my life to start something in a market I was more familiar with. So moving back to India was actually independent for me to start a company. I just felt that I should spend my career in India at least for the next 5-10 years. And when I came back, I reconnected with Srinath. He was the first person I called because we were colleagues together at ITC. We were batchmates. We were in the same hostel. I just had a lot of familiarity.
He was your wingman in college as well. Your alibi, go-to alibi.
So we just had a lot of comfort with each other. And I think for me, the aha moment was just us deciding that we were going to do something together. And what exactly that is, that actually came second. For me, if I had not started up with Srinath, I probably would not have started up.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have gone it solo.
I would not have done it. I don't know about you, but
so if he hadn't made the call, would you have thought about it?
I was actually not gonna. I was pretty comfortable back in 2017-18. I was not giving this serious a thought. This was always like in the plan, but let's think about it later. But when he proposed, I couldn't say no.
Did he go down on one knee?
Actually, there was a moment where he backed out.
Really? When did that happen?
I think we had just about to get our first term sheet, or we were struggling to get our first term sheet, and there were some moments of doubt.
Cold feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's those days were very different. Yeah. So, but it was momentary. I mean, even today, before taking a big decision, you are. It's important to have those moments.
Your family supported your decision, and in fact, your father also turned entrepreneur around the same time as you. But your father has taken only 6 years to be able to figure out what you actually do.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a very traditional family. Like my father is a professor, and my mother actually, she's more entrepreneurial. She runs an NGO of her own. And actually, when I came back, it was a tough decision. For 2018 was actually very transformative for me because I decided to come back to India. I got married that year, and we started the company.
So all happened at the same time.
All happened at the same time, and there was too much change for my father. Like he was thrilled when I got into McKinsey in the US, and, because in many ways that is a dream come true for a lot of, especially families of my background, where we haven't seen that kind of familial success. And so for giving that up to start something which wasn't clear, in a year I was getting married, that felt like a lot of change. So in a way, actually that was also helpful in hindsight, because my father gave me a deadline that, look, by the time you're getting married, which for me was December, you need to figure it out, because I don't want to introduce you as my unemployed
son.
So, and in fact, we closed our Series A 1 week before my wedding. So sometimes constraints help. It gives you that extra push.
It gives you the extra push. But let's talk about where we are today, Srinath. And, I don't know how many people know this, but you have facilities here in India. You're also now global,
Yes.
and about 25 to 30% of your revenue now comes from the US market. So again, in 6 years, to go from starting from scratch to being able to take this business global, I mean, it's a turbocharged journey.
No, it has been, yes. I think I would be lying if I had said in 2018 we really imagined 6 years from then we would have the form factor that we have today. We would have the kind of global footprint that we have today. That way, this journey has been incredibly gratifying. But each of these decisions, we never approach with a very super grand plan kind of a mindset also, So you take one step at a time, and are you feeling really reassured about that step that you're taking forward? And that's really how we have taken decisions, right? So the US, the first US thought came to us back in 2019 when Trump 1.0 and there was 25% tariffs on China. It was just this first principles thinking, right? So now with this 25% tariff, can India compete with China? Because we have this 25% delta, right?
Yeah.
Where we can really have a play. And this change has occurred now. And that's why there could be a here and now opportunity. And hence, and when we look at our suppliers who are really small Indian manufacturing MSMEs, they don't have the wherewithal to really knock doors with a US customer. So we thought, why can't we do that? And started with like one person spending like full time into that market, talking to a bunch of customers. And I think really COVID, the second wave of COVID is when we experienced acceleration, So I remember in the first 1 year of knocking a lot of doors, we acquired like 2 or 3 customers. And after the second wave of COVID, like I think 21, 22 year, every single quarter we were acquiring like 15 enterprise customers.
Because then the China plus one became
That
real.
is when the terminology of China plus one and the concept of
diversifying supply chains.
Otherwise that's been like we talk about bread basket of the world, and this is like the manufacturing basket for the entire world, right? So nobody really thought outside until this event happened, and that forced everybody to actually think outside of China.
You're talking about Trump 1.0. We're now at Trump 2.0, and tariffs are his favorite word. And tariffs are playing havoc at this point in time with businesses because of the uncertainty. Now, as companies like yours, how do you read the latest set of developments in the US? What does it mean for you as a business?
I think it's a little early days, because a lot of the detailing happens in the fine print, and those fine print are yet to be known.
And the fine print, typically, if your 1.0 experience of Trump has been the case, hasn't been as bad as the headlines.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, it's been great for us. Like, so I would go on a limb and say that in 3 to 4 years from now, any kind of I would describe our industry as a hard to get in, hard to get out industry. Like, our customers are large companies. They're not always looking for changing their supply chains every day. So that means that for us, sales cycle is a constraint. It takes us sometimes a year to win a first order. But then we convert that customer from a small company to a large account. So getting in is really hard. But the flip side of that is, once you're in for the rest of your life, unless you screw up, right? So these kind of opportunities like tariffs, etc., they really allow you to shortcut your sales cycle. So what you would have otherwise achieved in 1 to 2 years, you're able to achieve it in 1 to 2 quarters. So that is really how I look at it. And and that could be tariffs, that could be war, that could be any change in the status quo. So I would say in 3 to 4 years from now, these things should be good for India and by extension us. It's just that there is a short-term chaos that you have to navigate because when there is tariffs, etc., people want clarity. Businesses want clarity before they invest.
Yeah, especially if you're making significant capex decisions.
Yeah. So my guess is in 3 to 6 months we should get that clarity in terms of some stability into that environment. And these could be famous last words. I don't know, but you know, that's the hope.
But is there a sense of pause right now? I mean, especially
There
US
is,
customers,
there is.
etc.
Yes, of course. Of course. I mean, people are right now behaving here and now. Let's not think too much long term right now. And there is a lot of confusion right now in supply chains as we speak. And even the here and now decisions are sometimes unfortunately getting paused, which I think is not good for the industry. But hopefully, I mean, at the end of the day, we should go back to first principles thinking. I mean, if something that is damaging the economy, damaging supply chains in a big way, should not happen, in my opinion.
So you are hoping that there will be a review or a rethink or possibly even a rollback.
No, ultimately there is laws of gravity apply. Like for example, even now when there's tariffs or threat of tariffs, what we are seeing is for some of the products we supply, the local US equivalent prices have gone up almost similar to the value of the tariff. So if previously it was $100, now it's become 120. So that's in a way negated any impact of the tariff. Right? So there are certain just laws of gravity which generally apply. Now distorting market price through regulation has historically never worked. And there may be some short-term kind of chaos that gets created, but eventually it gets smoothened out over a slightly longer time period. So as you rightly pointed out, we are a 6-year-old company. We have a lot of room ahead. So we'll wait it out. But in the interim, what we're doing is we have started Europe as a second market for us. We now have a couple of very large accounts there. We think it can become 5 to 10% of revenue. Now that's a decision which we have preponed.
Right.
I would say
so
that
there's been an acceleration of the European expansion on account of the Trump uncertainty.
It's just that something as a I mean, even I would say for two of us, when we started the company, words like diversification does not apply because as a founder, you're all in. You know, this is that one idea you're working on, you're making it successful. And in fact, for the first 3 years, we were doing a single SKU, single category. Our diversification journey started post-COVID. It's the analogy of books for Amazon. You know, we were doing just that for the first 3 years. But now, as we are getting larger, diversification is good from a risk management point of view. It's good from bringing more certainty to the business. In a way, I see our role as that. Like, we live in an uncertain world, but as a CEO, as a founder, we have to give certainty to our investors, to our employees, to our customers. And just spreading your bets a little bit is not a bad idea.
And that's a dilemma for many founders. I mean, between diversifying and spreading yourself too thin, you got to find the middle path. So how have you arrived at what that middle path should be?
Just experience. We also overdid it. When we went for diversification, we went into too many things. Then you realize, oh, this is not simpler, and it does consume management bandwidth. It's not you cannot mechanize decision making, and then you strike a balance between it. You consolidate a few things but you do pursue things very seriously when you see that the conviction is coming from a long-term purpose than a here and now opportunity. That's I mean, if you look at it, the decisions that we've taken over the last couple of years, none of them are here and now. None of them are like electronics 2 years back when we diversified and went big. We think about this as a 15-year opportunity, right? So renewables, we are spending a lot of time in renewables today, not just in India, but also in US and Europe, because we think that's the answer for the world today, for the energy security needs that the world needs. And we are comfortable today taking big decisions coming from long-term conviction like this.
Speaking of long-term convictions and making big bets, let's talk a little bit about these big bets. And let's start by talking about the electronic bet, which, as you said, was something that you decided to do 2 years ago. And you've just opened your facility in Sri Perumbudur in Tamil Nadu. Ashwini Vaishnav was there for the inauguration. To go from that point 2 years ago to say, look, we want to ride on this opportunity, and the government has, of course, been pushing it as well, to where you are today and where you see the headroom for growth. I mean, everyone's talking about India's having its Apple moment, as far as the electronic space is concerned. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think the analogy is more like IT services, where, the IT services industry essentially created a model where we use India as in some shape or form a backbone for the global economy, and I think that opportunity is true for electronics and a bunch of other industries that we are in. The underlying, I was reflecting on what Srinath was saying, like I would go one extra step and saying wherever we have made short-term decisions, that is what has not worked in our favor, and wherever we have taken slightly longer-term positions, and this factory opening is a good example. Like historically we were asset light, which meant that, look, if any, we don't deploy capital beyond any large opportunity we're in. But now that we are actually setting up a factory, we have put our own money, we have set up this factory. On day one, when you set up a factory, you have no customers. Because no customer will come and say, okay, you're promising to open a factory and hence I'll give you business. They will want to see the facility, they will want to underwrite. It will take 6 to 12 months before you get the production rolling. In that moment, you're losing money. Only in the second year and third year is when the P&L really kicks in. So these are again decisions which you cannot take with a 1 year, 2 year time horizon. You have to have a 5 year, 10 year time horizon. The benefit we get as a business is because of the underlying marketplace model, we notice patterns of demand and supply. And sometimes you see that, okay, I'm getting 100 million of demand for electronics.
And there's no capacity.
There's no capacity. Or the capacities that are there are already full. So then this gives you a very clear signal that this is probably a good area to spend time, good area to invest. Even then you try and risk mitigate to the extent you can, and then you take risks that you're comfortable with. And I would say us as a business, we are getting more and more comfortable with taking risks. That risks which we were not comfortable 3 years back.
You haven't really been wedded to a particular way of doing things. You have had the agility to kind of make pivots very early on in your journey as well. I mean, from software to marketplace, now from marketplace to actually getting into manufacturing, and kind of like flitting between all three simultaneously. How did you think about that, and how do you develop the ability to deliver on that kind of agility?
I would say long term, that's the only moat or advantage we have compared to the
big boys.
And in a way, we have taken on the hardest task possible, where our competition is not other startups. Our competition is large incumbent companies who've been around for 20 years, 30 years. If I have to say purely from a running factory point of view, they run factories far better than what we do today. We will get there. But we are competing with them and we are winning. And one of the competitive advantages is just our ability to react fast and take decisions quickly. But at the same time, not take decisions carelessly. Because if you take a careless decision, of course, you'll hurt yourself, but you'll also hurt your market reputation, and you'll also hurt that customer relationship against which you've taken those decisions. So finding that balance is tricky and important. What we have also learned along the way is we don't need to do everything ourselves. So at some point, founders become the bottleneck in the companies they start. So our goal has always been to get the best people who are smarter than us to help us, achieve this journey together. So in electronics, for example,
a lot of people say that, but is that the cool thing to say, or I mean, how do you actually make it work?
I mean, the way at least I think about it is, I want to do as less work as I can. So if somebody
so that you can do what with your time?
Something else. But the idea is electronics is a good example. We brought in this person called Josh. He was the head of Bharat FIH, Foxconn India, and honestly, a lot of the insights we derive from him, in terms of these are the Now that doesn't mean you just do everything that this person says, and that's the partnership they also see with us. That we bring in our unique way of thinking, we blend it with that industry knowledge and insight, and that is where 1 + 1 can become 11 versus 1 + 1 becoming 2, right? So, and you still rely on the fundamentals of the business, which is software, marketplace, the multi-industry nature. That also is helpful, where patterns that you're seeing in renewables can influence some of the decisions you make in an unrelated industry. Like these are all the strengths that we have as a company, which are unique to us. And then we marry it with the industry-specific nuance.
Right.
And that is what allows us to be ultra competitive in the long run. So,
speaking about your competitive advantage, and it's an interesting point that you made about bringing in, somebody from Foxconn to actually run your electronics business. Do you believe that you're at that stage in your journey where the need for specialists like him is something that you want to focus on? Is that the kind of capability that you're now looking at being able to beef up, bolster? Is that where you find yourself at this point?
Yes, in very select areas where we are going deeper, yes, and we are doing that. We are not just in the electronics, even in renewables, even in battery energy storage, for example. You really, where the supply chain itself is very, very nascent and does not sometimes exist within our country, you need to really look at that talent beyond just looking at manufacturing or just looking at supply chain. You need to understand and appreciate how naive or stable the technology itself is, right? So those are the situations where you have no choice but to actually embrace it, that this is the uncertainty, and hence you have to work with specialists.
One is, of course, working with specialists as a way of enhancing capabilities. Another strategy that, many companies, including yours, have taken is the inorganic route. Take me through some of the lessons of what it's taken for you to do M&A, to do it successfully, what has worked, what would you not want to repeat in the future? What have been some of the lessons? Because again, within 6 years to do almost half a dozen, deals is a lot.
No, we have done only 4.
Yeah, so well, half a dozen is like close to 4.
Yeah. The dozen word makes it sound better. No, so we have done 4, and I would say our largest acquisition has been around $20 million in size. I would say our M&A journey has again been very first principles. Like we have bought either one of our existing suppliers or one of our existing customers. It's not like a banker came and pitched this company and so we evaluate. We have not done that kind of process. Not that I find any fault in that process. It's just that when your deal flow is coming from your business, that is the highest quality deal flow compared to when a deal flow is coming from a third party, because your business person understands how buying this asset can actually generate that 1 + 1 = to kind of 10 scenario. In our case, I'll give an example. Like the US business we bought, we were selling to US customers directly, and we were selling it via a distributor. And this company that we bought was one of those distributors. And what we were noticing is that because we were servicing that end market via distributor, we could not go direct. And our distributor was a comfortable business running a certain size and had a certain ambition. And by buying them out, we were actually able to go to that customer directly and say that, look, historically you've been spending 1 million via the distributor, but we can service 50 million. The bottleneck is all on the supply side. Right. It's not on whether the customer wants to spend or not. And that is a scenario where we were able to convert a $1 million a customer into today we do $80 million, $100 million a year. So it's just recognizing where the bottlenecks lie, and then acting is always a choice. We could have chosen not to do that, but we recognize that you could create a non-linear outcome. I think what we did not expect was the whole explosion of the US market from a China +1 and all those other things. Those became extra bonus points. But the underlying thesis was, okay, there's an existing segment I serve. I can serve more if I just debottleneck this sales issue.
So given the opportunities as well as the landscape, I mean, is that going to be something that you prioritize at this point in time, especially as far as international expansion plans go?
Yes, but we don't. Just the analogy that comes to my head is the love marriage versus arranged marriage kind of an analogy. So we wherever we see an incredible synergy, we act fast, and we love the team. We love the opportunity that the team is working on. We moved fast and broken things and made things happen. And that love exists in a few other places as well as we speak. It could be renewables. It could be US, Europe. Very few specific categories that we're looking at, and
So where are we currently, at the engagement phase, or you know, a little distance from that as well, or the courtship is on currently?
Courtship is on, I would say. Yeah, we found somebody, and we are and also see the way we have done these. That's why I don't think of us as a very acquisitive kind of a company, right? So not that I have any problem with acquisitive companies, but we've taken a lot more time. Right, every single of asset that we've acquired over the last 5-6 years, we've spent a lot more time. Our teams have engaged way before the marriage finally happened, and hence this. And when you do things like that, you don't even worry about something like business continuity risk, or because you're supercharged in actually what this 1 + 1 can actually generate, you know, and that's why we've our whatever limited M&As that we have done, they've done pretty well, and our board has been pretty happy with how these have performed.
And the philosophy also is, when we do it partly stock swap as well, because that really incentivizes and aligns the seller to be part of the value creation journey, and not everybody is willing to take stock. So that itself is a filter. That okay, if somebody is not willing to take, then it's just a transaction, and
correct.
And for us, that's less interesting.
Not a relationship.
Yeah. And so, I mean, to quantify what Srinath was saying, any M&A we have done, it's taken us 6 to 9 months from start to finish, and that means we can do maybe 1 a year max.
Right.
So that will never make us a very acquisitive company, because I mean, your bottleneck, unless we relax at 6 months to 3 months, and which is a bad idea. So you should not do that, and hence I don't see it as a big part of what we like to do. But again, you can't model it, because most of our deal flow comes from our business. And hence you can't predict that this year I'll see 10 companies and I'll, like a VC, I will pass on 9 and I'll buy 1. That's not the way we do it.
You know, speaking of marriages and bankers and proposals, I know that you've been courted as far as the public markets are concerned as well, and that is now today, 6 years on, a much more real possibility. Going to the Lal Street listing, work has already begun on that.
We have started that work. I like to say that this is I think the first time we've been serious about it. I think the question keeps coming, I would say sometimes unfairly, because we're a young business, and we get compared with other companies which are higher vintage. But I would say we're pretty serious about it, in the sense that we are engaging with banks. We are doing all the prep work. What I realize is it's from the day you start thinking about it, there itself it's a 9-month process before you even ready. So the longer you delay thinking about it, you're moving that clock even faster, further along. But that being said, I think we are more serious about it today than at any point in the last few years.
And why, if I may ask, are you more serious about it today? Is it because of the environment and what we've seen happen as far as companies like yours are listing in 2023, 2022 to 2024? We've seen a whole bunch of them.
I can tell you my thinking, which may converge with how the market is thinking. But the way I think about it is, we are building a generational company which will hopefully outlive us, and hence by that logic, it will spend way longer in public markets than it will in the private markets, and hence the earlier you can communicate your story to who your long-term shareholders are going to be eventually. That makes a difference at the margin to the decisions that you can take as a company. Now there's this whole thinking that, oh, if you go to public markets, you'll suddenly be constrained by quarterly results and you'll have to take short-term decisions versus long-term decisions. But I would argue the opposite. Like, the best companies are those companies which operate with a private company mindset but exist in public markets. Like, I'll say Zomato is a good example of that. They get that institutional love from a long-term oriented shareholder base, and they're still allowed, and they're actually having a higher risk-taking ability, I would argue, than they had when they were a private company. So I would want the same for us, that we think we can take, us as a business can compound for the next 20, 30 years in the Indian economy. And if we are able to attract the right long-term shareholders, it will be a true unlock for the business over the fullness of time. And hence, when you think like that, why delay the decision is how I come to it. Now, there is a little bit of tacticality around it on what is the exact time, when do you think the story will resonate well. Fortunately, we are having the opposite of what we faced 6 years back. When 6 years back, why are you starting manufacturing? Today, it's a very well loved and very well appreciated story in public markets. So luckily, we don't have to do that hard sell. And hence there is some of that which also plays in that, this is the time, the China Plus One movement
this
is
year,
happening.
I mean, what are you targeting? Are you targeting this calendar year, next calendar year?
I would, it's hard to pin it down like that, but we are starting our work. We'll most likely try and see if we can file later half of the year or early next year, and then how long it takes to
for
get
the regulator to give the approval. As you look at this Make in India opportunity today, as you look at China Plus One and what's happening in America with Trump and so on and so forth, where do you believe you're likely to place the strategic bets today? More India or more international expansion?
International, with the foundation of the supply chain being in India. You know what I mean? Today you can always look at design supply chains. You have to be blended in your supply chain when it comes to international markets. You cannot put, particularly in today's geopolitical situation, you cannot put all your
eggs in one basket,
right? So I mean, yesterday it was Mexico, today it's no Mexico. All these things happen, and but if your foundation of your supply chain is very strongly built in this country, and you can always add an engineering layer, or you can always add a tertiary value addition in the country, which is the right answer for the customer. I think that's a pretty resilient supply chain. So today we are thinking about global supply chains like this. It is not one single country. It is multiple country, and it is not one single capacity footprint. It is multi-capacity footprint, and it is not only manufacturing, but it is manufacturing plus value-added services. Could be engineering, it could be logistics, it could be warehousing or inventory management for your customer. So through these models, you can really build resilient supply chains which don't shake even during events like war or COVID
or Trump. But what has been the experience? As we talk about making in India, there is of course the perception of how difficult it is, ease of doing business. Of course, there has been improvement there. But as you look at this multi-facility, multi-country strategy, what's been the experience of working in the US? What's been the experience of setting up things in Europe? I mean, does India get a bad rap sometimes?
See, I think credit where it's due, right? So India, we are comfortable. We kind of we have done multiple things here. So even though the ecosystem may not be ideal, you still know how to get things done here in this market, right? So US, just because it was the first time we were doing something there, we were setting up a captive plant there. We went through challenges, and a lot of statutory things are very simple, straightforward, right? But a lot of anything that is non-BAU, I've realized in US takes even longer time
Than India.
But India, a lot more things are non. I mean, even BAU things are non-BAU. So, but then you have made things happen. So I mean, that's really how I would summarize. BAU things happen like really fast.
Yeah.
But anything that's non-BAU, people are also confused, and there's to approve or not to approve. Dilemma sets in, and things take time there as well.
So in terms of capex, given the fact that you have expansion plans at this point in time, what are we talking about in terms of the kind of capital that you will be deploying in the next few years?
So we've publicly announced our plans to deploy close to 1,500 crores across not just capex, but generally investments in totality across renewables and electronics. I would say we're halfway there in terms of already having spent that budget. So first is we have to spend the rest, then we will see if we want to spend more. And again, the idea is these are you can't always plan for it. We expect to spend, but we may not spend if there's no need, right? Because the business has a marketplace model which is complemented by the capacity in-house model, and you discover these things along the way. We don't have always don't have the clarity on day one that whether this is sufficient or even required. So it's just that you budget for it with the intention to spend, but you may realize that you may not need to.
Yeah, deploy it only as and when it is necessary. But we're living in an era where tech cycles are shrinking. Now AI is the rage. Every company claims to be an AI first or an AI driven company. How are you seeing that from your vantage point as an opportunity, but also as a risk?
I would say, we are a user of AI, so our speed of shipping code has dramatically improved in the last 3 to 6 months since we started using tools like Cursor and a few other things. So that is one benefit. The second thing that we're starting to see is, so we sit on a library of designs of various kind of products, and the next iteration of the design could be done through AI. Of course, that's something our customers do, but that's something we think we can help them with by building the right set of tools to shortcut the time it takes to design new products. So those are direct ways. Indirectly, I would say, because we do like close to a third of our revenue is renewables led, that is fundamentally linked to power consumption of economies in general, and I think AI will turbocharge that. If you look at even advanced economies like the US, their electricity consumption is growing higher than the GDP growth rate of those economies. Same thing is happening in India. And at their scale, and even at India's scale, that is like a vast amount of absolute addition. So energy as a theme will be a very important theme for the next 10 years. And some of that energy will be renewables, but some of it could be traditional energy as well. And that's I would say, our core business. So we are looking to, increase our portfolio of products that we offer. So historically, for example, in renewables, in solar, we started by doing everything below the solar panel. We started doing the solar panel itself. Now we're looking to add some of the electrical components like transformers, conductors, etc. So AI, I think, will be a important part of global economy for the next 10 years, and every company should have some ways of playing that market.
Before I end, what is the trip at this point in time? What's driving all of you in terms of next milestones, in terms of where you see yourselves and the company over the next 5 years? I mean, what's that one kind of rallying call to action?
I think we are at a very interesting point in our journey. I think this could be, if we pull this off, we could. It would be, we would be in a different form factor altogether. I think last couple of years we have slightly paused, I would say. I mean, we've been more doing sharpening the edges kind of actions. But right now, I mean, between India and international markets, we are taking multiple big bets. And these are not it's a departure from the typical iterative, experimentative kind of decision making. This is big, bold, long-term, conviction-driven kind of decision making, and this could definitely add more surface area to what we are doing. Amrit did talk about electronics, electrical parts manufacturing. These are fundamentally 10-15 year trajectories, and the way we are going about it is also very different. We are not starting doing small things. Okay, let's make 5 steps forward, see how things are going. No, we are
going all in.
We are going all in. Yeah. So that's why it's exciting.
Nervous as well? Anxious or?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not an anxious person, so I always try to look forward versus looking back, and I would say there is many things that we don't know in terms of our next few years or future, but I think one thing we know for sure is that the time for Indian manufacturing is here to stay. I think India can become a $1 trillion economy in manufacturing alone. It will probably happen sooner than later. And whatever we can do to catalyze that journey, if it would happen in 10 years and we are somewhat helping that happen in 5 years versus 10, we will take a lot of joy in seeing that. Ours is a very physical business, so we actually get to see the products we make. For me, that's a source of personal joy. Like, I have a photo of me as a kid building windmills using Lego blocks. And now we're actually building windmills for other customers. And you take that arc and you take it forward, it sky's the limit that way. So we are very excited about the next 10 years. I think what is happening today will probably happen only once in our lifetime in terms of the shift that is happening globally. If we can take this and get as close to the sun as we can, then we'll hopefully create a bright spot for.
Well, I hope you get as close to the sun as possible without getting burnt. But we wish you the very best of luck as you take this journey forward with the bigger, bolder bets that you intend to make. And we look forward to hearing more from you about each of those decisions. And of course, we look forward to seeing you in the public markets as and when you do decide to list. But thanks so much for joining us and taking us through the ZETWERK journey and your plans for what the road ahead looks like. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of the Young Turks podcast. From all of us here on the program, many thanks for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV18. We'll be back in a moment with plenty more.